Are you looking for a way on how to save your habanero peppers? In this video, I'm going to show you how to transform these little peppers into habanero jelly. Hi, this is Jeremy Stark here with Green Thumb Gardener, here to give you some more tips, tutorials, and reviews for all your gardening needs. In today's video, we're going to actually go over on how to make habanero jelly. You can always get a plant, you got tons of it, there's only so much sauce you can make, so why not use the rest of it to make a jelly? So in this video today, we're just going to do a very simple, quick, easy jelly that I like to make with all my habanero peppers. These are great for if you have crackers with cream cheese on it. You add this on there. You can also put this over chicken wings, cook it up like that, things like that. Please give us a like for this video to let us know that we're making great content for you. Also, please hit the subscribe button down below just so you get notified of all the videos that we do have. Make sure you hit that bell too. Also, we do have a website called gardenerthumb.com where we have all tips and reviews and things up there if you like to read. So check that out as well. Now that we get that out of the way, let's get right into it. So just so you know, the recipe for this is actually going to be in the description below. I'll put the exact recipe that we used in here. But just be mindful of this particular recipe because it is with hot peppers. You may, this is really going to vary on your heat level sensitivity that you have. I particularly like really, really spicy things, so I tend to basically keep it as spicy as I can without being overly spicy. But these particular habanero peppers, they're fairly spicy. They're not really, really spicy, at least to my end, but that's subjective. So just keep in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably deseed about half of these, and then I'm going to just keep the rest of them and just put everything in there. So deseeding and destem them will take some of the heat out. So you might want to just check this out a little bit, vary it out, see what works for your taste. But let's go over basically all the ingredients that you have in here. You're going to need basically a cup of shredded carrots, half of a cup of minced bell peppers. I have about 14 habanero peppers, but again, you can vary this up, but this is probably good for this particular recipe. A pinch of salt, and then the other thing you can vary up, but what I'm going to stick with is about 5 cups of just regular sugar that you have. You can go up to about 6, maybe 6.5 cups if you really like it sweet, but I wouldn't go any less than maybe 4 cups. It really just varies because of the way that you make jelly and how it does. So there could be different methods for it, but this one is going to be with 5 cups. Also, you're going to have a cup and a half of cider vinegar, which is really important if you are storing this. Also, you want to have a packet of fruit pectin. Now you can basically use there's different store brands out there and things like that. So just take a look what's on the packet. The other thing you're also going to need is 8 pints. And you want to sterilize these because you're going to be pouring the jelly in there. And if you do want to store these, even if you put this in the refrigerator, you still want to have it clean. So I suggest to clean these out in the dishwasher, and then you're going to put it in a boiling water to process them, basically to sterilize them. And then when you're ready to pour the jelly in there, you take them right out of the hot water and then you pour your jelly in. Then we'll go over all those details. But just so you know what you need in advance. I like to first chop up all my peppers, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a blender. I'm going to add also the shredded carrots, and I'm going to chop up the bell peppers as well. And what we're going to do is just going to pulverize it a little bit. So let's get started. Now for this too, you might want to wear some gloves when you're actually doing the peppers because you could get it all over your hands and get in your eyes. I don't use them, but I suggest you do. Do as I say, not as I do, I guess, right? But let's get started. Okay, so once you get all the peppers chopped up, you want to put these in the blender here. And what we're just going to do is we're going to pulse this so that it does kind of break up a little. We don't want it liquid. We just want it chopped up nicely. Now, you got to be careful with this too. Make sure you don't get any of this stuff in your eyes and things like that. So I put all the carrots in there as well, and then I'm going to rough chop this up too. I went with the orange bell pepper, but you can use whatever you have. If you have a red one, anything that looks nice, but it just goes well with the orange habaneros that I thought it would add some color to it. So I just kind of give it a little rough chop on this as well, and I'll add this right in here. Okay. And just be careful too if you're not using gloves. Just don't wipe your eyes or anything like that with this. All right, so we're going to give this a really quick chop, quick pulse. You can add a little bit of liquid too if you just want to make it go a little bit more. Maybe add a little bit of the vinegar as well, just enough. All right. Now this stuff is really potent too, just so you know. So breathing this stuff in is you got to be careful with it. All right. So we got this all worked up here. Let me get this out of the way. So the next thing you want to do is you want to get your saucepan. Okay. So we got a little saucepan right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add all the liquids in here. So we're going to add the vinegar. And what we're going to do is add a pinch of salt. Okay. And then we're going to add our sugar in here. I know it looks like a lot of sugar, but trust me, this thing will boil right down and it'll be a nice pulp. So then we want to do is we want to add this to, what I like to do, because this stuff is really potent, is I like to get the sugar a little more dissolved first. So we're going to bring that over to the stove and we'll get it all nice and dissolved here. All right, so what we want to do now is we actually want to get this vinegar and sugar dissolved. So on medium heat, you're basically going to put this until the sugar is all dissolved in here. And then what we'll do is we'll add the pepper mix after that is dissolved. All right, so once you get your sugar and your vinegar, you want to get it to a boil, and then what you want to do is after you turn it, you want to turn it down to medium heat at this point. Now this is where it gets really tricky. When you add this really hot stuff in here, and it touches this, the vapors and the fumes are going to get really powerful. So just be careful of this as well. You don't want to get any of this in your eyes. And also, some people wear a mask for this stuff. I'm one of those bold people. I just throw it in there and I just kind of deal with it afterwards. But just be warned that it will be pretty potent in here. So I turn this thing down because I don't want anything bubbling on me when I'm actually putting this in here. But you're going to actually turn this back up once I get everything in here. So you want to get all this stuff in here. Make sure you get it all in. This is all the good stuff. This is what gives it the flavoring, the heat, and everything in there. This blender of mine is really not the best for doing this, but I'm going to make sure I get all of this in here, even if I have to take it apart. This is where all the good stuff is. This is where you get the harvest from. This is all your work that you put in the garden. You want to get it all in here. So I just kind of get it all in here, and I might even swirl a little more vinegar in here just to make sure I get the rest of it out. I don't want to get all this on my eyes though. And this like I said, this recipe, you can pretty much do this with any pepper that you have. So if you want to do this with jalapeno peppers, if you don't want it too hot, maybe you got some other peppers, that you want, like maybe your green peppers or your yellow peppers. You can pretty much do this recipe for it. It has a lot of vinegar in it because when you're storing anything, you have to have high acid content for this. So I'm also going to just put a little swirl of vinegar in this, just a little bit in here, and I'm going to swirl this around so I can make sure I get all this stuff out of here. There we go. We want to get it all in there. All right. And once again, just be careful of getting this in your eyes or anything like that. All right, So once you got it in here, you want to bring this back up to a boil. You want this to actually boil for 5 minutes. What this does is this is going to help the pectin, when you pour this in, set. It's also going to kill off any bad microbes or anything you have on your peppers. So we're going to wait till this comes to a roaring boil. And again, this step right here, you got to be careful of the vapors and everything, because when this start cooking, you're going to feel it in your nose. It's really going to come out even if it doesn't touch you. So I like to put a little cover on this, and I'm going to let this thing go for about 5 minutes. All right, so basically our jelly has been simmering for about 5 minutes on medium heat. Just a little tip: if you never made jelly before, and as you're boiling everything, the sugar and whatever liquids you have in here, sometimes you can make it with apple juice, things like that. It's going to really come to a boil, and you're going to see the foam rise in here. The best thing you can do is turn down the heat, or actually take it off the heat for a minute, and then you'll notice that it'll settle down. But just don't be shy. If you see that it does do that, you want to make sure that you do lower the heat or get it off. And man, I can tell you that my nose is really burning right now. So I know this is really hot. So the next thing I'm going to add is my pectin in here. Now there's different kinds. Like I said, you can get like a liquid one, you can get the packaged one. So kind of just follow the recipe that you have on the packet. It's going to tell you how many jars you can make. This packet, I think it does about 8 of the pint jars. I always have a couple of extra just in case you need extra. But if it goes a little bit less, a little bit more, that's fine. So you want to add the pectin in, and then you want to stir this for about a minute, I believe, or 2 minutes maybe. Because basically you want it all to dissolve in here. Now also a note too is, if you notice, I do have jars right here that I'm sterilizing. This is actually the water that I'm going to also use to process all these jars once I get them all filled up. So you want to make sure that you kind of do that ahead of time so you can time everything on there. So I usually boil this thing because it's a really big pot. I usually boil it up first before I really do anything else. Get the water nice and hot. Put my jars that I've already cleaned in there, but that's where I'm going to sterilize everything at that point. All right, looks like it's all dissolving in here. We're going to bring it to a rapid boil. I like to bring it to a little rapid boil. That way I know the pectin is going to activate. Because what it'll do is basically once it gets really hot and then you process it in the boiling water, then what you're going to do is when you take it out, it's gonna need some time to cool down, and that's when it actually sets in there. But you really have to get it boiling hot first to activate, sort of activate. And this also just makes sure that it's sterilized, and anything that's on your peppers or anything is not gonna be alive in there. Now some people also, they will skim the foam off of the jelly. I'm a really simple cook, just like a gardener. I don't really skim it off too much. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, to be honest with you. I mean, you can do it. It makes it look a little bit cleaner, sort of. It really doesn't matter to me. I mean, if it's really bad, then maybe I will, but I kind of just let it settle down a little bit, and then most of the foam is going to dissolve in there anyways. So it really doesn't matter. It just makes it look a little bit better. I'm sure somebody will post on here that there's some reason for it. I don't know. I've always done it this way. I've never had any problems with it. I've stored these for over a year, and I've not had any problems with any of my batches that I've made for any of my jellies. But if that's something that you like, then by all means, skim it off. Do what you need to do to make it look nice, and get ready for it. So the next steps that we're going to do now is we're going to actually pour these into the hot jars over here. So what I'll do is let me get that ready so that we're able to do it. And you want to get a nice ladle to do this. Also, one of the tools that I recommend is one of these right here. This is actually great. You stick this in the jar, and it's like a little funnel made specifically for canning. So that's something that you might want to pick up at the store. The other thing is you also want to, maybe this right here, this actually pulls these out of the hot jar, so you don't get, you can use tongs too, but these are great. So if you do a lot of canning, the other thing you also want to make sure you do is, if you're going to be processing these for a while, is you want to put your lids in now. And then what I just do is I just stick them in, that way they'll be sterilized. And then you got this other little doohickey right here. This is like a little magnet thing that helps you get the lids. All right, so let me get this out of the way so we're not going to burn anybody here. And then we are going to do this right on this right here, so we don't make a mess. All right, so I kind of like to do everything all at once. I just kind of take one jar out at a time. Okay, and you want it nice and hot as you process it. So we're going to put this over here. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our ladle. So basically for each jar, I'm just going to pour in enough to fill it up. It's probably like 2 ladles of these. Okay, and you want to leave about 1/4 of an inch on each jar. You don't want it all the way up to the top, but you definitely want to fill it up as much as you can. So about 1/4 of an inch. They have some tools that you can use to like do it, but you can just kind of guesstimate on this. Basically, you don't want anything on top of the jar because we're gonna be putting a cover on. So then you take your metal doohickey, and you want to try to be, if you want to store these for a while, you want to try to be as sterile as you can. So there's nothing on the actual lid, so I just basically put this on here. So then you take your ring and then you put your ring on, and you basically just want to, you don't want it really tight. You just want it so that it presses down a little bit. So you don't want it really tight. And then what I do is I just put that back into the water, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna do each jar for that. So you can watch as I do this, and we'll get all these filled up as we can. All right, so once you get everything in here, this particular recipe is made about 5.5, 6 jars. Like I said, you always want to have more jars because, just in case you have a lot of pulp of anything in there, usually works out to about 6 jars from what the recipe that I did, give or take a little bit. Now, if you do add more sugar, you will get, you'll actually get more jars of this. You might get maybe another jar or 2 if you add, another 2 cups of it. So what you want to do is make sure, if you've never processed anything with any kind of jelly or anything, you want to make sure that you have at least an inch of water above where your jars are, and that way this is going to process. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this boil, and I believe about 10 minutes is what you want to actually have this boil to. So we're going to let this boil, and I'll show you what the next steps are after this. Okay, so once all the jars have been boiling for 5 minutes, they processed. You want to pull them out, and you want to put them on some kind of cloth or possibly, some wooden material. Now they're still going to be pretty. They're not going to be set at all. So, basically these are going to need to be cooled before you can actually use it. So, you'll see that it is still liquid in here, but they should set usually about 6 to 8 hours, somewhere around there. They're ready to use. So I just leave them out. I don't really do anything else. And what this is going to do, this is also going to vacuum seal the jars, so you'll have to test them afterwards. So you want to leave these out. You want to let them cool on your. You basically want to let them cool on your counter, wherever they are. For I would just do it overnight. You can do it to the day. You'll hear them popping and things like that. Basically, what you want to check is the seal on these, that they are. Once they cool, you don't hear any popping noise when you push them down. That popping noise means that they didn't seal correctly. You could still use them. I just put them in my refrigerator if I have one. Also, if you have any jars that aren't full, those are the ones you want to use first. So I would just put that right in your refrigerator. But the other jars, you should be able to store them. It varies on how long you can store them. I've had them, or I've done it up to a year but I don't want to just say that they're going to be good for the full year. So you want to just make sure you check on that. But hopefully you found this video really helpful. If you do, please give us a green thumbs up. Let us know that we're doing a good job on this. Also, if you haven't seen our website, go check out gardenerthumb.com, and that's where you can find any kind of written materials that we have, anything out there, just helpful posts and things like that for you. Also, if you could subscribe below, give us hit that bell so that you get notified of any videos. And as always, thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.